National Alliance concerned by what it calls the government's overambitious budget.
We would certainly welcome the projection by the government, but we find it overly ambitious and, quite frankly, not realistic to achieve.
A former Governor General speaks out on constitutional reform and whether or not he supports it.
I don't see too much whether we could change, we ought to change.
And a Bahamian carnival to be introduced by 2015. What local artists think about the new festival?
It's a good step. I think we need to massage it. We need to find the right formula. And if it's the time that the government decides to do it, no matter what time, I believe that the entertainment in the Bahamas needs to be year-round.
I'm Christina McNeil, and this is MB12 Weekend. Bahamas. Thanks for joining us this Saturday for NB12 Weekend. The prospects of $1 billion in government borrowing by the end of the next fiscal year since the Christie administration returned to power last May has left a sour taste in the mouths of members of the official opposition and the head of the Democratic National Alliance. DNA leader Branville McCartney expressing concern over what he called unrealistic goals set out in the Prime Minister's budget communication. High on that list of concerns is the state of the country's economy and government's projections over the next fiscal year and beyond.
We would certainly welcome the projection by the government, but we find it overly ambitious and, quite frankly, not realistic to achieve. So I think that's a lot of talk there. I don't think that will be achieved. Although you would want it to happen, it's not going to happen. Not in our economic climate and not where we are. It is difficult to see the Bahamas hitting the 2.7% economic growth targeted for 2013-2014. Again, given that the country missed the 2012 projections cost by about a third.
McCartney says Bahamians should demand accountability given how much government is borrowing and where some of that money is going. McCartney pointed to the $10 million allocation for small home repairs by Urban Renewal as an example of an area watchdogs should pay close attention to.
I think it's necessary that there be some type of cost analysis so that we know what this money is being spent on. We need to see what this money is being spent on. That's a hell of a lot of money within 1 year. If the government is going to do this, we are certainly requesting that the government ensures that there's proper management and accountability. You see, there's been no accountability for the last allocation to urban renewal. None whatsoever. And on the streets, this is known as the grease pocket allocation of the budget. Grease pocket allocation of the budget. And it seems as if monies are put there. There's no accountability, but we demand accountability. It's our money.
McCartney also noted government's plans to allocate $2 million for the purchase of new police cars in the hopes of increasing police presence on the streets. McCartney says it has been done before and crime did not decrease. So rather than allocate funds to material goods that depreciate over time, he suggested government invest in something that may yield more rewards: people.
A national service program that would take persons off the streets. That's those persons who are not employed. That's those persons who are not furthering their education. And the program would cause them to learn a trade and to ensure discipline. See, when we get these persons off the street, then the need for police presence in those areas won't be necessary.
While McCartney applauded government's efforts to address the country's financial state as best it can through investments in education and the establishment of an agriculture and marine science school, he says there is still a sense of hopelessness in the country.
I think the Bahamian people will start feeling hope when they start getting jobs again. Not talking about it, not talking about things will be coming, things in the pipeline. We intend to do this. When the government is able to say, look, we have provided those 10,000 jobs, when the government has said that our Bahamian people are equipped to be in a position to own the economy. But I don't think they feel. The PLP talks a lot. They give a good talk. Putting things in action is a completely different story.
While scattered showers and overcast skies are still lingering over the central and southeast Bahamas, but the danger to New Providence appears to have passed, according to the Department of Meteorology, which has kept much of the country on alert for heavy rains, flooding, and possible tornadic activity for most of the past week. But not everybody is out of the woods just yet. Juan McCartney reports.
Even though the storm is over, cleanup and assessment continues throughout New Providence, especially in communities like this one in South Fox Hill. However, New Providence isn't the only island that's been pretty hard hit by the rain. While NEMA Commander Captain Stephen Russell was out and about on New Providence further assessing damage today, reports of issues in Exuma poured into our newsroom. This afternoon, we spoke by phone to former cabinet minister and Exuma candidate Fenton Nemore, who lives on the island. Nemore said Great Exuma has been basically flooded, with the main island essentially cut in half just west of Georgetown.
For instance, if an individual were to land at the airport in Exuma, they cannot get into Georgetown at this particular time due to the flooding that's around what we call the Bahama Sound 18 area. Essentially, about a mile of road is under 2 to 3 feet or even deeper water right now.
Nemore also said he's been unable to get in contact with the island administrator for Georgetown, Theophilus Cox, who's on the eastern side of Exuma.
I know that they are having difficulty reaching with telephone communications at this time in terms of reaching the Ministry of Works, etc. I've been advised of that. So there's difficulty in communication with some administrators on the island at this particular time.
Nemore said there's also been additional flooding in the Mosstown area.
The government subdivision is called Redland subdivision. Is currently underwater in portions of it. It's impassable. Luckily, Morristown is a loop, and so you can access it from the eastern side. But there's significant flooding in that area right now.
According to Nemore, there has been some flooding in homes. Though residents there haven't experienced what people in, say, Pinewood Gardens would have over the last 10 days or so, according to Nemore. Meantime, Nemore says Sandals has been busing employees into work using large trucks. Nemore also said Exumians are dealing with the situation pretty well, coordinating with each other to conduct transportation and provide basic needs and services. Reporting for NB12, I'm Juan McCartney.
Over the past 2 weeks, residents in Pinewood Gardens have been barraged with inches of rainfall and, even worse, the flooding of homes and damage to property. And while residents of that area are used to flooded streets whenever it rains, the epic proportions left in the wake of back-to-back storms has some calling out for a long-term solution to flooding in Pinewood Gardens. Senior civil engineer in the Ministry of Works Civil Design Department, Henry Moxey, says engineers have long been challenged by the layout of Pinewood, but government is exploring solutions that may bring residents some relief.
Well, the Pinewood Garden situation is quite unique, first and foremost. Secondly, a well can only take so much water, and you're having to fight with tidal influence because that's virtually a low-lying area. Secondly, you're also, even though you would have cleared the well, the volume of water that is coming into that well, each well is designed to receive about 1.36 cubic feet of water per second. But then if you have a sheer volume of what we would have experienced last week Tuesday of some 15 inches of rain, you're looking at millions of gallons of water. The challenge with Pinewood Garden is relatively flat, so you have very little movement of that water. However, the government, as in recent times, well, not in recent times, but in the past, we've assessed and had consultants in who have assessed the Pinewood Garden situation and have given us recommendations and the like as to how to, once and for all time, address the Pinewood Garden situation.
One of those solutions the ministry is exploring involves moving from a gravity-based well system to one that moves excessive water from one area to another via pumps. However, introducing such a system would be a hefty investment for government. Moxie says the setup of initial infrastructure could range between $25 and $50 million.
One option would have been to put in what we call a lift station system, whereby the water is actually draining to pipes or collection points, and then the sheer volume of water is moved via pumps to an outlet, whereby maybe the South Beach Canal and the like. So that's one of the options, but once again, that option becomes somewhat prohibitive as it relates to costs.
The first round of heavy rainfall hit New Providence on the night of May 21st. The highest amount recorded during that period was in Camperdown with 15.29 inches, followed by Fox Hill with 15 inches, the Elizabeth Estates Police Station with 12.79 inches. Parts of central and western New Providence received significantly less rainfall. 3.16 inches were recorded at Stapleton Gardens and 4.35 inches at Lynden Pindling International Airport. Since then, teams of public and private workers have been seen in parts of eastern and southern New Providence pumping gallons of water from submerged streets. Now, Moxie says the Ministry of Works is working with the Department of Lands and Survey's Geographical Information Services Unit to locate low-lying areas where water can be discharged, essentially making the pumping process more efficient. Meanwhile, residents in areas that are flood-prone are encouraged to keep their storm drains free from debris and litter to prevent future clogs.
They're assisting us in preparing the map that would be populated with contours, so that for those areas, particularly in the east, for the most part, that would have experienced tremendous flooding, which is not basically the norm. When you would have actually gone into areas like that, you then would be able to see from those topographical maps exactly where low points are that you can actually discharge water. Everyone should play their role, the community role primarily being to safeguard their drainage system, because if they allow it to be overwhelmed with debris from the surrounding area, then it would prove problematic when we do have weather conditions of this nature.
The Ministry of Works is responsible for maintaining approximately 900 drainage wells around New Providence. That figure does not include those that recently came on stream with the completion of the New Providence Road Improvement Project. And if the past few weeks are any indication of what we can expect this hurricane season, it may be a very active one. Today marks the beginning of the 2013 Atlantic hurricane season, which forecasters say will be extremely active. Members of the public are urged to prepare early, as forecasters are predicting 13 to 20 named storms with winds of 39 miles per hour or higher. Of those storms, 7 to 11 could become hurricanes. 21 names have been identified for storms in 2013. Once those names are exhausted, weather officials will begin using letters of the Greek alphabet for names. Hurricane season lasts 6 months, ending November 30th. Well, in news from the crime beat, 4 people are in police custody for questioning in connection with the shooting of a 69-year-old woman early Friday morning. Police press officer Kristlyn Skipping says 2 men and 2 women are assisting police with their investigation into the shooting and burglary of the woman and her teenage grandsons. The suspects were arrested around 8 last night after Central Detective Unit officers discovered a shotgun with shotgun shells and an array of electronics believed to be the property of the burglary victims at a property in the area of Polimas Street. The 69-year-old victim's family was shaken up after the woman was shot in her neck and remained in serious condition following the incident. Initial police reports are that the assailants entered the family's home while they were sleeping, stealing electronics, clothing, and jewelry before shooting the elderly woman. Police investigations continue.